All right. Today we have a flagship project, a leader, the founder of a flagship project on Chia. Glad to have Tim Youngman and MonkeyZoo on with us. Tim, welcome to the show.
Hey, Lucas and Grant and co. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So glad to get you on FOMO, Tim. I doubt I need to say this for our Chia audience because, Tim, you are maybe the most visible member of the Chia community. I call you the Chia ambassador, and you are a Chia ambassador. Can you give us a bit of a story as to how you came to Chia and sort of what your path to Chia was and what drew you to it?
Yeah, sure. So before Chia, when it comes down to sort of blockchain and technology, I was mainly an Ethereum miner. Not massive on a massive scale, but I had a couple of rigs set up with some GPUs in there. Um, uh, and generally was interested in all things kind of blockchain when it comes to like helium mining. um, any kind of deep in type project was on my radar. These weather type things and anything like that I was into. And I guess my kind of previous background, before even blockchain technology existed, was I was in the armed forces as a signaler, a Royal Signals person. So I understood kind of technology and hardware, and kind of specialized in telephony and fiber optics. So it kind of drew me that way, to sort of play around with these bits of technology. I've never been a developer, code is not my thing, but I can certainly play around with hardware. And I think what was happening was the merge for Ethereum was going from proof of work to proof of stake, and I think everybody could kind of see the end of GPU mining as such. So um, I was searching around, found a few videos about sort of the potential of Chia. This was kind of just before mainnet, and decided to sell my GPUs. I kept the rig frames just in case, but I've sold the GPUs and just transferred that kind of money into hard drives. So that was kind of where I started and jumped on that sort of. I think I was just after mainnet or just around mainnet launch. So, the GPUs were set up. I wasn't really prepared when it came to sort of plotting and what was required for that, but I definitely jumped in and started plotting from there. So yeah, my background, I think, getting into Chia at the very start was this kind of this new cool thing to mine, and that obviously led on to me understanding a lot more about how it operates and how that chain operates. And yeah, it's really exciting times actually. I was mining probably Ethereum for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. So I was quite comfortable in that zone, but moving across to something else, sort of post proof of work, was a bit of a scary situation. But I think Chia softened that blow.
I didn't realize that you had such a history in mining Ethereum. Did you have did you have visions for a project on Ethereum before you came to Chia?
I I looked at NFTs, and I partook. I don't partake as much, but I did partake in sort of NFTs and purchasing and sort of getting into these sort of various different communities. Um, but I think there was always a flaw there. And my bigger picture and my bigger ideas were, it didn't quite tick all the boxes, should I say, of what I thought it could do. Um, and so, yeah, I mainly was just focused on mining, and I would mine various different coins, Raven coin, etc., and whatever sort of kind of new proof of work coin was coming on the market, I'd throw some GPUs at, and sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't work. And so yeah, I think I don't think I was throwing myself into the Ethereum kind of community world, but certainly much more the mining world, which is was quite a huge place at the time.
Very interesting. And Ravencoin, that's a new one on me. I think of you as the ambassador for Chia, and with one of the flagship projects, NFT projects on Chia, but I don't think of you much as a farmer. So interesting to hear that you have such a history in mining and also farming. So speaking about, well, when I as I think about what I do know about you, I know a lot about you because you hold a regular space on Sundays. And you also, I know you drop in a lot of spaces because I follow you on Twitter. Sometimes I drop in, and I don't know that there's any other community member who has reached out to uh, more whatever Ethereum communities and Solana communities, whatever they may be, to tell the good news about Chia. How is that how you came to be? Um, I don't know. I don't know if you're still a CNI ambassador, or if that has merged into the XCH Foundation. But how did the XCH Foundation come about, and what's your role with XCH Foundation?
Yeah. I guess there's a couple of questions there. I think once going back to kind of the CNI ambassador roles and my sort of enthusiasm to spread the word, I think I just found it very exciting, and could see a future, kind of what we're building today. But I could see the future of how this operates, how this works, and how powerful this could be. And in general, I like to kind of spread good news, and and that's kind of worked because I've now got sort of contacts, reasonably big contacts in kind of in this sort of EVM bubble of NFTs, and people that are kind of listening to me that would never really move out of that EVM bubble. And I think I've just been keen to promote that. And one of the reasons why I started doing these spaces were, I think if we remember back, which might be slightly before your time, Lucas, but the kind of the giant long spaces, I can't remember the exact amount of hours, but um, listening in on that and listening to the people involved, Clyde and Grant um, and all these people that really understood this technology much more than I did were explaining things that I could understand, and inside my head it was, well, this is kind of what I've been searching for, to be able to do what I want to do. And I thought that there was a brief period after the big long spaces where the 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 community started doing these sporadic spaces. It would last a couple of weeks and then it would stop, and then there'd be another person trying to do this. And I thought to myself, well, i will I will do this. And I'm not, if you was to know me in my social world, I'm not a big sort of social person. It's not my thing, but I think it was a need for me to kind of understand more. And I think it was a need for the Chia community to kind of have something that to kind of look forward to and to talk about. And I'm really glad now that there's sort of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different people, including yourselves, that are kind of doing these talking kind of shows or spaces to sort of broaden that understanding of what's going on. And the space on a Sunday has been going now for, blimey, a couple of years, I think, and it's kind of part of my routine to do this. So yeah, it's definitely been exciting, and it was nice to be recognized, from CNI for doing that as well. It certainly was certainly not my intention to go out there um, and be an ambassador as such. I guess I probably am, but yeah, it's kind of something that was beneficial to me, and I think beneficial to the whole ecosystem, which is something we still struggle with today, which leads on to the second part of your question about the XCH Foundation. And I think it was Clyde and Dylan, I think, that originally started an XCH Foundation way back before kind of things got busier on the Chia blockchain. And I was approached by Scott Norman, who is also a director at the XCH Foundation, and he kind of talked about there should be something like this. Maybe do you want to try and get it going? So I did. So me and Scott sort of kind of approached a few of the bigger, I guess, contributors in the community. So we approached Michael Taylor, Andreas from Mint Garden, Clyde Wallace, now at CNI, Grig at NFTR. And that was kind of the original core people that looked at this sort of not gap in the market, but a gap in the ecosystem. And we set out to create this kind of entity that sits not opposite but alongside CNI, but another avenue for people to kind of get in touch with and work with. So that happened probably about a year ago now. We kind of had those initial conversations, and you know, as it's gone along, the kind of developing of that entity, you know, a kind of what I can't remember what they call it in America. It's kind of the it's something C30. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, the 5013C.
501c3. That's the one. Yeah. I've been trying to learn my Americanisms, but
oh my gosh, I can't believe anyone should be expected to know the tax code of the United States. I like foundation. What are the goals of the foundation? Is it to foster projects, to be a targeted point where people can come to with questions, so CNI can focus on what they're building and blockchain, you know, their products and blockchain security, etc.? Or what role do you guys see the XCH Foundation as playing?
Yeah, great question. I think there is a need for it. I think you know, and probably we're more aware of it now than we probably ever have been. But CNI have their goals. You know, they have their aims. They are a business, a profit-making business, and there's definitely another side to the Chia blockchain that isn't always top priority for CNI, and that's rightly so. So I think the priority for the XCH Foundation, and we've talked about this sort of at a high level, sort of amongst the directors, that, you know, we want to be that alternative route for if somebody wants to come and do something that is in no way, shape or form anything of interest to CNI, but it might be a greater good for the kind of retail side of Chia, then that's where we want to be able to assist. And I think having a separate entity to CNI can only be a good thing. You know, it's a public blockchain, and you're, you know, as you well know in your recent kind of FOMO shows, a public blockchain, you can kind of do whatever you want on it. You know, as long as you're not going to break anything. Well, even if you can break something, you can do it. So I think, you know, at a high level, the XCH Foundation in long term wants to be that sort of second or first port of call for people to come in and throw ideas around and seek funding for doing this, or you know, to get advice, or to find where a developer is that can help them. So I think short term, the XCH Foundation are just going to try and sort of take control a little bit, with the assistance of the community, of different aspects of the Chia ecosystem. So for instance, documentation, and yesterday we had a space about kind of community and marketing, and how we kind of market, you know, the NFT space a bit better. You know, so it's kind of clearing up these sort of smaller areas to start with. You know, how we bring in funding to the XCH Foundation so that we can then assist and help with for the greater good. So
Is
go
do
on.
you guys have if people what or if you're bringing in funding, one, can people donate to the XCH Foundation, and two, is there some sort of process for projects to apply for grants or some sort of aid?
There certainly will be. There certainly will be. We've we are really right at these very first stages. We've only just got the sort of kind of bank account set up to kind of accept fiat currency, and we're waiting on the sort of the vault systems to come in so that we've got secure vaults and things for donations. But there's I believe next month we're going to kind of have an open space, an open call about how we go about funding, and what roads we can go down there. I mean, we've kind of talked within ourselves about various avenues of how to gain funding, different tier levels of membership maybe, but nothing's been ironed out. And I think the whole sort of overarching kind of vibe of the XCH Foundation is that it should all be kind of community run. As the directors there, we don't want to enforce any kind of opinions, points of view. We just want to assist, and I think that's key. So everything we're going to do, any decisions that are made, are kind of done in a group, or as a group, or as best we can. That's the idea. So we are at the early stages, but we're expecting to kind of go down that funding route, probably starting next month, and trying to iron out some of the key details about how we go about funding. And then obviously there's a decision to be made of how projects are awarded funds, or what projects are chosen, and how do we go about choosing things. So there's a lot to think about, and we've dug into a lot of the kind of higher level stuff and thoughts, but again, it's getting these thoughts out to the community to allow them those kind of decisions to be fairly done and made as a community as a whole.
Well, I definitely agree that it's wonderful to have an organization coming to represent the community, because we need to be realistic in understanding that CNI has their own goals, and it's best for all of us if they're allowed to focus on that. We've had a discussion about standards, and I wondered, in our discussion about standards that we recently had, I actually thought of the XCH Foundation, because I don't know of any other community organization that exists amongst the Chia community. And I thought about standards. Do you guys have y'all had any discussions about some sort of process that might be analogous to CNI's chip process, or a way to disseminate and I don't encourage conversations between people who want to build puzzles and augment what the possibilities are for standards on the Chia blockchain?
We haven't really talked that in depth. I think that topic of conversation's only recently sort of come to light, and I certainly think there is something we can do. I think there's kind of the XCH Foundation, and I don't want to go into the whole royalties debate right now, but I think there's kind of a middle ground there, and I think the XCH Foundation can be that sort of middle ground, where kind of things are flushed out. That's kind of what I'd like to see, and Lucky 8 sort of kind of saying that he doesn't necessarily want to go the chip route, but maybe there is a middle ground there where the XCH Foundation can kind of sit in the middle and, well, almost mediate, I suppose, in a way. But we haven't certainly gone down that road of talking about, is there another kind of version of a chip process that the XCH Foundation can do? Because I don't think that's kind of something that's high on our priority list right now. But who knows in the future? It's certainly something that the XCH Foundation as a whole wants to be more community driven and listen to the community side of things, maybe. And I think maybe we can do that in a way that CNI possibly can't. So
when I hear you talk about the people who are also part of it, Aceville and Michael Taylor, maybe some people who would be well disposed to think about what that might look like and what sort of possibilities could be brought by a community standard organization. But as I
just want to clear that up. So when we started, we had Michael Taylor, Aceville, and Clyde all on board as kind of these directors. Apologies, my phone. But they've had to pull out for various reasons, workloads or whatever. So the directors stand at the moment as myself, Greg, Rigidity, Scott Norman, and obviously Yak are kind of sat there at the director level right now. So so I think there's a good group of people there that have the community at heart. We certainly thought about the kind of the issue with having somebody from CNI. Certainly when Clyde was involved, you've got this kind of CNI influence, but I don't think that is the case. The way the foundation's been set up, that nobody can kind of make decisions on their own, at a high level. So I think it's important to have we've got Rigidity at the minute. It's important to have these people that understand the technology and Chia Lisp and kind of that level of understanding is important. So but people like Michael Taylor and Slowest Time Lord, Andreas, Clyde, we certainly want them involved as kind of an ambassador type role as well. So there'll be more on that as we kind of flush out the kind of tiered level of kind of memberships and things like that. So just wanted to make that clear.
Absolutely. Well, and the directors that you mentioned, I think also are well placed and have experience to have good thoughts about what the relationship with standards might be. Also glad to see CNI representation, because the XCH Foundation will work best if it's working in concert with CNI. Best for the community, best for CNI, best for everyone. But talking about standards and bringing up Michael Taylor, Rigidity, Yak, and Aceville, we are skirting one of maybe what we're skirting your project, the Fusion Zoo standard, because you have brought exactly what when I think about a community sponsored standard and a desire to drive improvements and augmentation of the Chia blockchain, you've done exactly that. So let's talk about the Fusion standard and the MonkeyZoo project.
Yeah. Sure.
Where can you basically describe your vision for the MonkeyZoo project and lead us into how it took shape?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So we'll go way back. In around about 2008, MonkeyZoo was kind of born, and it was born where I created a kind of a social network. This was the days of MySpace, and Twitter was just starting to sort of come out of its shell. Facebook didn't exist. So I kind of saw this sort of gap in the market there, where essentially what I was trying to do was I created this sort of pretty much the same as Twitter, if I'm being honest. The original idea was founded off the back of something we call Text My T-shirt. And you've got to remember, this is the days before sort of mobile instant messaging. So no WhatsApps, no sort of messenger. And it was done by SMS. So essentially the idea was that you could message people anonymously via an SMS sort of code. And the social network behind that was around this kind of MonkeyZoo vibe, where You picked a monkey that was kind of your character, your social presence as such. So that's where sort of the imagery was originally come from. And there was no way that we could compete with the likes of Facebook and Twitter. So that it didn't last a long time, but the imagery and the MonkeyZoo side of things stayed with me. And at the time, we copyrighted the imagery, which we still have. We've kept up to date. So there's kind of trademarks behind that. And in fact, going back there, we actually we put a patent in for Mimi, which was mobile instant messaging, which now today we kind of think of as just WhatsApp and sort of using the internet to send messages rather than the telephone network. So but fast forwarding, I've always been a gamer. I've always played games, whether it's the shoot 'em up games type thing. And there's always been that issue where I've seen that you don't necessarily own assets. You don't own these gaming things. And so many times I've played games where I played them for hours and hours, hundreds of hours, and you build up these characters, certainly things like Call of Duty. And I thought, why are we getting to this stage where I've spent hours creating this, and I've worked my butt off to get to the stage where I've got this gold shiny whatever it is gun or skin, and now I've got to start again. Why can't we kind of take that? And I think things like certain games out there on Steam will allow you to now kind of sell these assets. You earn an asset when you think of things like Counter-Strike, for instance. That some of the assets within that game can sell for a lot of money, but there's always been that issue that it's not really owned by the person that's kind of created these things. And when we fast forward to when, like you talked about the Ethereum world and looking at how Ethereum NFTs worked and the potential for using NFTs in games, I kind of had a look and a think about how MonkeyZoo, or how this technology should possibly grow to be able to allow us to have these gaming assets that can people can really own, people can really trade, etc. And looking at the Ethereum world, and I think the people in the Chia community can kind of see what the issues are, and so I never really pursued it too much. I never really thought this is something that I can do. And in hindsight, I was probably right. I see a lot of Ethereum projects now sort of talking about Web3 gaming, and I think that there's a lot of fundamental problems with the way that assets are moved around or owned when it comes to the EVM world. So that's kind of the background of where I started, and I can talk about that sort of moment about when the penny dropped as such. Was
absolutely, yeah. When did the epiphany happen?
Yeah, so that epiphany happened in the very early days. In fact, went back to those 168-hour spaces, listening to Clyde and Josh and people talking about this, how coins operate and how you can embed basically a smart contract into an individual coin, and that was the penny drop moment. I thought, well, this is exactly how gaming assets can be owned by a person, and can be multifunctional, not just a dead asset that just sits there and is controlled by either the game themselves or this kind of central entity. That penny dropped where they were explaining, just the fundamentals about how the Chia blockchain operates. And coming from a mining background, my main interests were, what's the consensus? How does this kind of work? How can I farm this? How can I be part of this blockchain? And then those spaces opened my eyes to what's possible. which led on to this. I guess it must be kind of 2 years now of development and ideas throwing around about Fusion, about how we can make this dynamic NFT standard that really stands out as something that's different, and something that's more, I guess, more decentralized. I think decentralization is a word that's bandied around a lot. I think the important thing about decentralization is that it gives an extra layer of security. So, and having been to sort of conferences around gaming and certainly Web3 gaming, and listening to some of the bigger names in the Ethereum world talk about gaming, their focus or their priority was never about security. It was about making it fast, and that's certainly something that is important. But I think the key thing is that if you buy something on Ethereum and click a strange link and your wallet gets emptied, that's bad enough. But I think if you've spent 200-300 hours on a game, getting to a stage where you've got your assets looking how you want them, and click on a dodgy link and have them stolen, that's another level as well. So I think there's multiple different areas that need to be looked at when it comes to Web3 gaming, as people like to call it. I'm not a fan of the word Web3 gaming, I must admit. I'm more of a fan of gaming that can contain the technology that Web3 offers.
Got you. And so you took that epiphany and then merged that with the character of MonkeyZoo to build this fusion technology. So tell me about the fusion puzzle and what's going on here.
Yeah. So I think the MonkeyZoo imagery made sense, and it made sense in a few different ways. The idea of the MonkeyZoo imagery is that it's quite a basic 2D image that can be kind of Mr. Potato Headed. We can dress it up, we can change its looks, and there's a reason behind kind of the basicness of that, is that we want to essentially be able to use AI at some point to turn these into sort of 3D mesh objects. So when it comes to Fusion, we're obviously starting from scratch, and it's taken us a long time to get it right. I have to shout out Lucky 8 for designing the Chia list puzzle. As I'm not a developer, that side of things would have been impossible for me to get anywhere near. So Lucky 8 is a genius in my mind. But the design of the Fusion puzzle and the early talks about that was, how do we do this in a way that's kind of decentralized? And that was my main criteria, was how do we do this in a decentralized way where it's not controlled by anyone except the person who owns that asset. So that was one of the key features that we wanted to do. And the idea really, on a very simple term, is to be able to nest NFTs inside of other NFTs, but also have that ability to keep that provenance. So the NFTs that are kind of stored inside of other NFTs, they still sit there. If you imagine your NFT as a jar, you take the lid off and put all the other little NFTs inside it, but they all float around inside there. And the principle is that you can then, at a press of a button, release them all back, and their provenance is still intact. It will say when it was minted, it will say when it was brought or sold, it will say when it's been transferred, it will say it's been fused inside of this and now it's not. So those are the key fundamentals, and the bigger picture really is how can we make gaming assets that are dynamic in nature, as most gaming assets are, work with blockchain technology. And I think we've kind of achieved that. Now, a caveat, and I'll talk about this afterwards, but there's definitely some improvements we can make on that, but I'll talk about that soon. So yeah, you've got this kind of structure where an NFT essentially can be stored inside another NFT. So that's kind of the basics. And what we wanted to do is, like I say, make it decentralized, make it secure, and really that the people that control these assets take control. So our kind of proof of concept of this is the Fusion Zoo, which we've had a closed beta and an open beta on. People have tested it. We're weeks away now from it being launched, but that gives people the ability to take their MonkeyZoo characters, kind of strip them back and redress them, or resize them, or inverse things, or create pretty much whatever you want. We've given people a lot of freedom. Now that can be a good thing and a bad thing in Web3, but what it does,
always a good thing, Tim.
Always a good thing. But what it does is it kind of showcases what my vision is of how gaming assets should work. And the way the process works when it comes to the Fusion Zoo is you will come in and kind of connect your wallet through Wallet Connect. It will pick up all your MonkeyZoo NFTs, whether it's characters or whether it's oddments, which are kind of these add-ons, and it will allow you to go into like an editor and pick any bits of any NFT that you've got, whether it's something from a cheeky monkey, something from a zombie monkey, something from an oddment, and mesh them together inside the obviously on our server backend. We are letting you create whatever you want, and that gives us a lot of freedom to design whatever you want. But what's going to happen on the background is, or on the back end is, when you press kind of the go button, the Fusion puzzle then kicks into life, and it then does what I say. It kind of stores all these NFTs inside of other NFTs and produces your new image that holds all of these NFTs within them. So that's kind of a nutshell how the Fusion kind of works. And then you have the ability to go back in, click the defuse button, and all your NFTs will pop out and then repopulate back in your wallet. But everything there is done via Wallet Connect, and it's done via the user. So yeah, it's quite a powerful tool. And I think the really exciting part was probably the most difficult part, which is that defusion process and maintaining that provenance throughout all of your NFTs.
Absolutely. And you're launching this, you say, in a couple of weeks. Do you have a hard date on that, or what's going on with the launch of the Fusion Zoo and the release of the Fusion puzzle?
Yeah, so the Fusion puzzle is out there. It's open source. That was another key thing I wanted, was to make sure it's open source for it. So I think if you read through the paper, the kind of use cases I think are pretty endless. I think there's so many different use cases that this can be used for. The actual launch of the Fusion Zoo, I have a meeting with the NFTR gang, Grig there, who's been absolutely fantastic, shall I say, designing the Fusion Zoo, and Nick, who works alongside, who's been designing the kind of the manipulation framework so that you can redesign your characters. I've got a meeting with them early next week, and we'll hopefully come up with a hard date. So we're very, very, very close now. I know I've been saying that now for probably 6 months, but we really are that close now. Yeah, so it's just round the corner. But I just wanted to add on another little piece about the kind of fusion technology. And when we talk about these fused NFTs that contain other NFTs, you can then fuse on top of that another fused NFT. So if you imagine you've got your MonkeyZoo character, you've dressed them up and you've picked bits from all over the place and you've fused them into one, you could do the same with another character, completely separate fusion, and you can also fuse that fused NFT, if that makes sense. So it's kind of infinite to where it goes, and it allows for this kind of I guess unlimited way of building these fusion puzzles on top of each other. And the beauty of that is obviously that it all can be defused. So you just maintain all this provenance all the time. So I think it's really fantastic. And like I say, a big shout out to Grig and Lucky 8 and Clyde for getting involved, and Nick, who's also working on the project, and also, with the MonkeyZoo team themselves. There's a team page on our website. There's a few people involved, mostly kind of hangers on. There's artists, there's sort of video editors, there's people that generally advise, and point me in the right direction for certain things. So yeah, big shout out to them.
Well, go ahead, Rusty.
Oh, I was just going to say, that was one of the quick questions I had for you, MonkeyZoo, is just how many people you have helping you with this project. I took a look at your website, and I think I saw like 5 or 6 different characters down there on the bottom, kind of popping out, saying that we're a part of it. But, what you're building is definitely a need, and there's definitely a lot of availability for different projects to kind of come over and find new interest in the Chia blockchain. And when I was thinking about what you're doing in your project, we're kind of new in NFTs. We're kind of new into blockchain altogether. And I think that, building on the Chia blockchain gives you a good basis. And it's like you have a really good game. And is the game going to be on a good console or not? A lot of people can build really good games, but if it's not on a good console and people don't know about it, it's not going to become well known. And I think that you're building on the Chia network is building on a really good console, on a really good base, and it's going to give you the opportunity to build something in the future that can continue to grow.
Yeah. What we're doing is we're developing the tools for gaming. That's the way I see it. We are working on a kind of proof of concept trading card game as well, which is on the cards for possibly later this year. That kind of proves out this gamification of this technology. But essentially, what we're doing is we're creating the tools so that Web 2 gaming can bring in this technology and be able to utilize it. And there's I could probably talk about this in a completely another show. I know we're kind of coming towards the end here, but in a nutshell, Web 2 gaming doesn't need NFTs. Web 2 gaming doesn't need Web 3. It's doing fine as it is. But this technology and the way that you can smart contract an individual asset, an individual piece of the jigsaw, the piece of a puzzle, a piece of the character, if you can smart contract that individual asset, you can then allow for other revenue streams for general gaming, and that is the key to what the whole kind of fusion is about, why I've gone down this path. I think what you can do is you can create extra revenue streams on top of the original revenue streams that these gaming companies already have. And I could talk for hours about that because it's been in my head for many years. But that's probably for another show.
Yeah, we might want to get into that in another show. And I definitely see that possibility and that need. And it comes back into when you're talking about, you spend 200 or 300 hours in these games achieving a certain ability to have, you get that gold gun and you finally made enough kills, but it gives the opportunity for the player to receive some reward for their work. They can go, like you said, some of these games you can now turn around and sell some of those in-game assets for actual money. And I play a game, called Path of Exile, where there's an entire economy built around people selling in-game assets, and people make a job in other countries, basically playing the game. They play the game to make a job to pay their bills. And what you're doing on top of the Chia blockchain is just taking that to a new level and making people to where, this can become viable for many more people at a different level.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think some of the more important things that's kind of overlooked when it comes to the fusion and the puzzle is the sort of schema.org and chip 15 metadata, which really can enhance the way that gaming sprites and characters can go from place to place, from game to game, from metaverse area to another metaverse area, and I think you know, the key parts here are how we look towards the future, and the way I see it is that games and gaming assets, you know, will pretty much remain the same, but if they use this kind of technology, they have another constant revenue stream that can, you know, it maybe there's a small fee for you to take your gold gun from Fortnite to Call of Duty. Maybe there's a small fee either paid by the gaming creators or yourself to take that asset across. You know, maybe there are cases where royalties are paid, you know, for you selling that asset to the game creator. There's so many different streams of revenue there that are just untapped into, and I think this leads the way. And I think the real important thing here is that there's, when it comes to gaming assets and selling gaming assets, you know, you often need this escrow in the middle. You need this entity, and what that does for a game creator is it gives them another headache. You know, are they complying by regulatory sort of rules, and I think the way that the Chia blockchain operates and this kind of peer-to-peer nature, these atomic swaps, takes away that burden from a game creator, that they don't have to create a gaming asset and then maintain it forever. They can kind of release it. It's then in the hands of the people that own it to decide what they do with it, and there's no recourse on them having to act as this escrow service in the middle. So that's kind of where I'm leading to as well.
You know, Tim, I commend you for sticking to this project and building it out. But also, and maybe the main thing that you just barely mentioned and we've skated over, is that you made the puzzle open source. And so you truly have built opened the door for the gaming industry to come in and to carry this concept further. And so that's a beautiful thing to see. We are past the hour, or past the 40 minutes. So let's go ahead and close it out. But anything that you want to say in closing with us?
No, well, I think I've thanked a few people. I really want to thank the Chia community in general, because, you know, they've kind of brought into this idea, and you know, many of them may not know the full plan and or the full kind of idea behind MonkeyZoo, but you know, they've brought into it. They've brought our NFTs. You know, they really have sort of championed us, and, you know, a big thanks out to them for getting behind us. And without the Chia community's involvement and, you know, people purchasing our NFTs, then we wouldn't be able to sort of fund this project and get it to where it is today. So yeah, big thanks out to them. And yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to coming back and talking with you guys again, because I could talk for hours about sort of the gaming industry and Fusion and how it all operates. Yeah, there's a few things we haven't touched on, but time is time.
Well, in the future, we might dig deeper into Web3, the Web3 gaming, and mire ourselves in those twisted concepts. But, you know, Tim, also, I enjoy your spaces on Sunday. I always look forward to them, and I thank you for evangelizing Chia to those who are, well, shall we say, trapped in the EVM world. So I hope you keep doing that, and I will see you around the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And everyone, absolutely, thanks for coming on, and we'll see everyone on FOMO next time.